Starting a garden often feels overwhelming when you think about digging, battling weeds, and worrying about poor soil. That's where raised bed gardening comes in. It's one of the simplest and most effective ways to grow healthy crops, whether you're working with a backyard, a small yard, or even limited space. Today, we'll break down everything you need to know about raised beds in a clear, beginner-friendly way that will also hold value for experienced gardeners looking to refine their skills. Raised beds solve one of the biggest frustrations gardeners face: poor soil. Instead of struggling with compacted clay or rocky ground, you get to control exactly what soil mix goes into your bed. That means healthier roots, faster growth, and fewer weeds. The raised structure also improves drainage, which is especially useful in areas with heavy rainfall. Beyond that, raised beds allow for extended growing seasons, since the soil warms up earlier in spring and stays productive longer into fall. Now, a common mistake beginners make is building beds that are just too wide or too tall. The golden rule really is that you should be able to comfortably reach the center from either side without stepping on the soil. For most people, 4 feet wide is perfect. The length, well, that can be as long as you like, though 8 feet is practical for both construction and making good use of your space. As for depth, 12 inches works well for most vegetables, but if you want to grow root crops like carrots or parsnips, go for 18 inches. For example, a bed that measures 4 feet by 8 feet with a depth of 12 inches requires about 32 cubic feet of soil. That's roughly 1.2 cubic yards, which you can order from a landscape supplier, or if you fancy, create with your own soil mix. Cedar and redwood are popular choices because, well, they naturally resist rot and can last up to 10 years without treatment. Pine is cheaper, but it will break down faster, often in about 4 to 5 years. Avoid using railroad ties or chemically treated lumber, as these can leach harmful substances into your food crops. If wood isn't an option, you can also use galvanized metal or concrete blocks, both of which last for decades. The soil you put in your bed is the heart of your gardening success. A simple ratio that works for most crops is 40% topsoil, 40% compost, and 20% coarse material like perlite, sand, or even fine wood chips to improve drainage. For instance, if you are filling a 4 by 8 bed with a 12-inch depth, you'll need about 13 cubic feet of compost, 13 cubic feet of topsoil, and 6 cubic feet of drainage material. Mixing these components thoroughly before adding them to your bed ensures consistency and prevents layering. If you don't have access to quality compost, start with what you have and add organic matter over time. Grass clippings, shredded leaves and kitchen scraps can all be worked into the soil between plantings. Over time, this builds fertility naturally and improves the soil structure. One of the benefits of raised beds is the ability to plant intensively, which means, maximizing your harvest in a smaller space. Instead of planting in traditional rows, think in terms of square feet. For example, in 1 square foot you can plant 16 radishes, 9 spinach plants or 1 tomato. Rotation is another key principle. Avoid planting the same crop family in the same bed year after year, as this depletes specific nutrients and, invites pests. For instance, if you grew tomatoes and peppers this season, try growing beans or leafy greens in that bed next season to naturally balance the soil. Watering is often easier in raised beds, but they do dry out faster than in-ground gardens. Aim for deep watering 2 to 3 times per week, rather than frequent shallow watering. Mulching with straw shredded leaves or wood chips will help retain moisture and suppress weeds. At the end of each growing season, top off your bed with 1 or 2 inches of fresh compost. This keeps the soil nutrient-rich without the need for heavy chemical fertilizers. Pest management is also simpler in raised beds since you can use physical barriers like row covers or netting more effectively. For instance, floating row covers can protect tender greens from cabbage worms or flea beetles without needing sprays. You know, raised bed gardening is not about perfection but about creating a system that works with you, not against you. Honestly, it's best to start small with 1 or 2 beds, refine your soil mix and take the time to learn what grows best in your climate. Over time, your beds will become more fertile, your harvest more abundant, and, well, your gardening far more enjoyable. If this guide helped you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more practical gardening tips and, share this video with fellow gardeners who are ready to transform their growing space. The garden you want to create is closer than you think. It all starts with that first raised bed.